What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. As always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. I am the 2018 Innovation Award winner from the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and it is a Wednesday night. We're live streaming on the Get Vocal platform and on YouTube and on Periscope and on Mixler, audio-wise, on May 22nd, and it is called Black Lady Magic. And if you don't know these ladies yet, your wood is wet. That's all I'm going to say. Right? And actually, if you go to the Dr. Vibe Show website, I just put up a recent conversation with their fellow soror, Serena, and they knocked it out of the park in regards to a sorority talk. But they've got another interesting conversation. And ironically, the lady that brought it to our platform tonight needs to abide by the first part of the conversation tonight.
I do.
So we're going to be chatting tonight about, Leah brought up, is self-care a buzzword only, or do we actually practice what we preach? So before we get into another epic conversation, we'd like to say welcome to Dr. Chetachi and Leah. How are we, Leah? Ladies? I would say, how are you, Leah? How are we, ladies?
Good.
Excellent. Short little background on each one of you before we start. So, Leah, could you start a little bit about yourself?
Sure. By now, most of you know I'm a U.S. diplomat by day. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. And then by all other times whenever I can fit it in, I'm also a freelance writer and blogger and speaker. I'm the content manager for Urban Intellectuals, and I am a contributor to Madame Noir magazine. And I write about mommy stuff and parenting and work-life balance.
Excellent. And Dr. Tachi?
Yes, I'm Dr. Tachi. I'm a media professor, a filmmaker, a media content producer, also a journalist. I do a couple of shows every week that I'll talk about after the fact.
Excellent. No problem. Let's get right into it. Leah, now come on now. Did you have some foresight into this conversation topic?
I must have,
because
it must have just flowed right from the divine into my idea, because I definitely feel like I'm embodying this conversation tonight. Because I definitely should be probably sleeping right now to get over this cold, which is still with me. So yes, for me, self-care is not just a buzzword, but I do think that it's kind of one of these things like where everybody's an influencer now. And so everybody thinks that they're important and all these other things. I think that people use terms like self-care, self-love, and blah, blah, blah as a catchphrase because it's sort of the thing to say and the thing to do now. And there's just a lot of talk and chatter around, wellness these days. I mean, not that it's unimportant, but I do think some of it is just lip service. And so I kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper and actually talk about whether or not it is a buzzword, especially for women of color, specifically Black women, because one of the things that is really worrisome to me and frankly upsetting in 2019 that this even exists is that when you look at every health statistic for prevalent diseases in, I'll say, American society, Black women top the list for all of the things that are preventable, curable. For instance, as an example, Black women, more than any other subgroup of women in the United States, have the highest rates of death during childbirth. We have the highest per capita rate of obesity. We have the highest rate of breast cancer, the highest rate of diabetes, things like that that are manageable. And I don't necessarily feel like African-American women are any less healthy than any other female demographic, but I do think that it goes more towards behaviors than genetics, because I think the behaviors that we happen to have in our community aren't ones that promote good health. And I also think that Black women, unlike other sub-women demographics in the United States, have double and triple and quadruple duty in ways that other women do not have. And so I think by nature or by virtue of the fact that we carry all of these responsibilities, and being the strong women that we are, we put ourselves last and we think that we can endure and we think that we can get through and we think that it will go away and that will be okay. But in reality, we're only doing ourselves a disservice where, we find out too late that we have stage 4 cancer that we could have caught when it was at an earlier stage and it was preventable and now it's terminal. Things like that. And so I really wanted to have this conversation because I think it's important and I think it's criminally unfair that our Black women are suffering so much disproportion in terms of disease and preventable, problems that we have with our health.
Okay. Before we go any further, I want to just shout out everyone that's in the room. Shannon, Tony, Dre, Steph. I know Kinte was in momentarily on the Get Vocal platform. Anyone who wants to take a seat, please feel free to do that. I have my own little quick story to add to this. Unfortunately, I was at a funeral on Saturday of a lady who I knew a number of years ago. There was a group of us that hung out for about 5, 6, 7 years. She eventually ended up very smart, intelligent, beautiful Black woman, moved from Toronto down to Atlanta, got married a year ago, no less than a year ago. And then no one knew, like I heard about a week ago that she had passed away here in Toronto, but I heard that she encountered cancer to the point where her legs were swollen and she couldn't walk. And sad thing, she came up here to Toronto to Princess Margaret Hospital, which is one of the world-renowned hospitals for cancer. And her parents were there, and she was a vegetarian. And of course, vegetarian and hospital food just don't mix, right?
No.
So she asked her father, could you get me some booster juice, right? And as her father was turning away, all of a sudden he heard his daughter say, I can't breathe. And she died right there in front of her parents.
My gosh.
Wow.
40.
That's horrible.
She got married in August and died May 1st.
My gosh, not even a year later.
Exactly. 44 years old.
Wow.
Wow.
44 years old. And it really, the service was amazing. And especially her husband. Can you imagine her husband? While he was in Atlanta, obviously you knew she wasn't doing well, but that phone call hearing that your wife had passed away in another country.
Yeah, that's
and
I can't imagine.
It was powerful. He get an incredible eulogy. I mean, he knew after 4 dates that this lady would be his. And they were planning a life together. And I mean, it's still resonating in me. So when you bring up this topic, I hear it. And also too, I'm hearing the same sort of conversation in regards to Black men, in regards to John Singleton passing away at 51.
Exactly.
But our platform here is certainly to focus on Black women, Black lady magic. But I think whatever is discussed tonight also should reverberate with Black men. So sorry to interrupt there, ladies, but I just wanted to add to the positive of the conversation. Go ahead, Dr. Tachi.
No, it's no interruption. I mean, you just gave an example.
Yeah.
You painted the picture of what I'm trying to bring up tonight.
Yeah, it's still resonating in me. You know, like it's funny, while the husband was there giving the eulogy, there was a gentleman who sat beside me who dated this lady when we all grew up together, and everything that the husband said about his wife, this gentleman who dated her over 30 years ago said, So I just wanted to add that on that. I wanted to just really, really profound. So I'm still sort of, I'm not going to forget those hours of that funeral and like a call to action for myself and all the rest of us. So Dr. Tachi, go ahead. I don't really say that much, but I wanted to share that.
No worries. Absolutely. So definitely agree with everything that Leah says, as per usual. And in terms of this being a buzzword, it feels like it is, because so many of us, especially women of color, particularly women of African descent, are not afforded that. It's not even that we can't or don't want to, it's that we're not afforded the opportunity. We don't get to rest. That's really the message that is around us. That's the discourse that exists around Black womanhood. The discourse is also, you rest on the other side. And we tend to really do once you get to heaven, that's where you rest. And I know I always keep bringing this up, but it's important because society, and religion is one part of our society, has taught us that this side is suffering, the other side is rest. And so if you keep that in mind, then you don't worry about the fact that you need to rest and stuff here, because on the other side, you'll get to rest. And I think that's grossly unfair. While it may be true, it's grossly unfair because we seem to be the only ones held to that standard. People of color, we're the only ones that you get to rest on the other side. Everybody else has their spoils now. So I feel that's grossly unfair. It's become a buzzword, like we've heard the whole lean in thing, and everybody was like lean in, and now it's self-care, and everybody's now self-care. So we love buzzwords because I think it makes us feel like we have some sort of foundation, and that's some sort of a plan. By having these buzzwords, now we know we're supposed to lean in. We know we're supposed to practice self-care. And it's like before they termed it these things, there were people already doing it, but it was like we didn't have a blueprint. But now that you called it something, now we have a blueprint. So I do think it has become a buzzword. We also fall into the trap of taking care of everybody else except ourselves. Again, Russ is on the other side. We tend to think and know that our children are critically important and they need this. But again, we turn over everything. So you really don't exist. Once you have children, you cease to exist as a human and a person sometimes, which is why it's so important to take self-care. If that means you need a day, then you better find some place to stock those children and you take a day, because the more the nonsense builds up, the less self-health you have. And that's another thing about building up. We tend to endure so much in our workplaces, and we have to let it slide off our backs because you don't want to be seen as the angry Black person. You also take on more than everybody else. Case in point, I would be at my university on Sundays I would do work for me, and then I taught dance to students who weren't even in my department. That wasn't even my department. I wasn't getting paid extra. But, you kind of subconsciously feel that you have to uphold the race. So you need to be the stellar example of all of that. And as a result, we always end up being the stellar examples, but you kill yourself for it. So finally, money is also an issue. When we talk about ignoring the signs of things, ignoring the signs of illness, sometimes it is not an issue, but I think sometimes we speak from I hate the term first world, but a first world or a westernized example or a westernized mindset. Simply because one person has insurance to do these things doesn't mean everybody does. And even when you do have insurance, the cries of Black women in terms of pain, etc., and suffering are often ignored by the medical community. So we have an issue there as well. So that's how I'll start off.
That's a start. Okay. Let me ask, and it's just come up in my thought process here. When we're talking about self-care and Black lady magic, how much of a challenge it is because it's being held to a non-melanated standard? Is that part of a challenge too?
Are you saying in terms of what we perceive or understand as self-care because someone else is setting the standard of what self-care is meant to be?
Exactly. Because I think self-care for the average non-melanated person is a little bit different environment than the average person of color when it talks about self-care, because both of you, and especially Tachi, has said, look at all the challenges that Black women face, and on the average they're not as challenging as the non-melanated lady. I just want to shout out to D. Scott Smith. Thanks for stopping by. Also, Gabe, thank you for also. And Shannon and Social Step, there is a space open if you want to join in. So does my conversation point make sense?
Yeah, I think I understand where you're going. I think my understanding of the situation is that, yes, if we're going by whatever the quote unquote societal standard is, which is one that is not set by Black women, then of course the bar is too high. Why? Because of the obstacles that Dr. Tachi already laid out, and because culturally, unlike some of the other non-melanated counterparts, we don't have the same support mechanisms and support systems in place that they do, that afford them the opportunity to do things like self-care as they proclaim self-care to be. Meaning, it is easy for them to be able to be like, hey, neighbor, I need to go quickly go to this yoga class. Can I just give you my kids to watch for a couple of hours because you have a nanny, or you have a housekeeper, or you have an au pair, or something like that, where you have sort of like that additional level of support and help on the home front that can kind of take some of the burden of child rearing off your hands and free you up again to be able to invest a little bit in yourself. The thing that I think is upsetting about being a mother of color for many, and I don't consider myself in this category because I do have a very supportive spouse, and I do have some of the standard or whatever the self-care supports in place. Like I do have good healthcare. I do go to the doctor regularly. I do the things that I need to do to make sure that my health is okay. I do think it's a challenge because I definitely think that I'm privileged in that way, and I'm fortunate. And that's not necessarily to knock other women of color. I think there's many women who are in that position. It's not so much about what you have or you don't have. It's also about how you approach self-care. Because for me, and like many Black women, we're overburdened. Like Dr. Chachi said, we're doing too much. We take on too much. And a lot of it is because we have to in order to prove that we're good enough, especially in the workplace. It's like that double duty or triple duty, because not only are we proving ourselves as females, we're proving ourselves as females of color. So we're not even supposed to be there in the first place. So that's much more work than we would normally have to do. And we come home and have all of the work on the home front. So I think what I sort of take self-care as something smaller, like small steps. Like for instance, today, instead of coming home and immediately cooking or straightening up the house, I laid down and took a nap. That is something that I consider to be self-care. I knew that I needed the rest. The dishes were still going to be dirty if I waited another hour or not. I still had enough time to start dinner for the kids before they came, but I needed that little power nap to just be able to get through. Partially because I'm really tired, but also because I'm sick. But I knew I had enough self-awareness and I made myself enough of a priority that I was able to put those other things aside. I think one of the things that many women of color specifically don't have the luxury of doing, or we don't think to do, is to put those things aside. The things that are really not that important, but in our mind, we've built up or trumped up this importance of these non-important things. And instead of taking care of ourselves in that moment, we take care of those more menial things that could probably wait or be delegated. Because I also think one of the problems that we have too is that we are built tough, we're built strong, we're natural organizers, we're natural leaders, we're natural people who are effective in getting things done. So we would rather do half the stuff ourselves than wait for somebody else to do it and not necessarily do it right. And I think that we need to get over that. We need to stop doing that. But
okay, before a few things. Leah World Traveler, you may not, Encyclopedia Brown, you may not be feeling well, but you're still fire. You're still fire right now. So,
thank you. The brain doesn't get sick. It's everything else.
I know that. And the heart is always there. The heart and soul is always there. Just want to shout out to Latina NYC. Also she's on the Get Vocal side, and on YouTube, we have some people watching there. I know one of them is Divine Right. So as always, a super supporter of all of us, and we support her and her wonderful son. She's saying this topic is super important and vital. Thanks for talking about it. I've lost too many people who neglected themselves while they were here, and now they are, quote, resting. We, and she puts in capital letters, need to take care of ourselves. Self-care can be free. Meditation on YouTube, mindful movement, quiet time, even in your car or a bathroom. It doesn't have to be a hot stone massages and vacations. It's taking time
those
for
would
self.
be nice, but yeah, it is.
You know, it's and want also welcome Herbie on the Get Vocal platform. Actually, one of the things I did the other day, Leah, someone recommended. I had a really crazy week, and I got home and I took a shower.
Yeah,
Made such a difference. Such
it
a
really
difference.
does. It's really the small things. It really is like those little quiet moments of just closing your eyes and just letting everything fall away and not worrying about your next meeting or the thing you have to write. I'm surprised by how renewed I feel after just taking those few minutes. Like right now, you guys know I'm studying Armenian during the day, and it has not been easy for me. So I have lunch, from 11:30 to 12:30. Lately, I've taken to spending half of my lunch hour just walking. On the nice days, just going outside, getting some sun, being outdoors, being outside of the office. And it really totally reframes how I feel. My energy is different. And I'm kind of able to get through the second half of my study day in a much better headspace. And I wasn't doing that before. And it's amazing. It seems something so little as going outside for a few minutes can make such a difference. Other days, Wonderful. I've been so exhausted, I put my head down for 10 minutes. It's made a difference.
Also want to now say hello to Monica Black Diamond, all the way in South America. Thanks for joining in. And ladies, especially ladies, if you have something you want to share about this conversation topic, please join in. It's really, 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 really important. And also the guys, you listen up too. You listen, because the ladies on average live longer than us, so we need to learn from them also. Dr. Tachi, let me ask you a conversation piece. When do you know, or do you have any signs of when you're needing to do some self-care?
Yeah, I think there are always signs. It's just if you don't listen. Are you asking me personally or just
like,
in general?
Like I'll give you a perfect example. When I can't find my keys, I know that I'm not in. So do you have any signals like that in your own journey that say, you know what, I need to just like let some air out of my tire? Leah, any signs for you? Like obviously you're in the middle of it right now, so maybe Leah can give us some better examples.
Well, I mean, for me, and I know Tachi has hers, I'm sure she'll say them in a moment. I just know for me, when I start to feel like this sensation of drowning, like feeling overwhelmed, like it just, the idea of taking on one more thing or doing one more thing just feels like it's all too much. I know that I'm doing too much, and I need to take a step back and sort of reprioritize how I'm spending my time. Because that's when I know that I'm doing too much. Also, when I'm feeling very short on patience, everything annoys me. Like I have my fuse becomes very short as opposed to being long, which as a parent, you have to have a long fuse where you'll really go crazy. I know that I need to take a step back and take a break. When I'm starting to feel kind of just frustrated and angry all the time for no reason, even though there's really nothing wrong, I know I need to take a step back. So those are typically signs for me. And in those moments, I usually just put literally everything I'm doing to the side and I focus on the things that bring me joy. Spending time with my friends, watching a movie that I like, listening to music and dancing around the house. I really love music. I have it on, listening to it all the time. Those little things really help me. Going for a walk, eating a favorite food, something simple.
Excellent. Also, Monica Black Diamond saying prioritization for sure, Leah.
Yes.
So it's not I think the reason I hesitated is because I refuse to let myself get to the point where, oh, damn, it's time. I can't. I can't. So even though I'm super busy all the time, I have a lot of things going on. Number one, I'm super busy with the things that I want to do. Gone are the days of doing things that I don't want to do and being overly busy with other people's stuff. So no. that's done. So anything that I'm doing is something that I clearly want to be doing. So there's really no point. I mean, maybe before it was the same thing like me, where things start to get on your nerves. So it's kind of like scale back, like stupid things get on your nerves. So it's time to scale back. But for the most part, I won't. So part of self-care is also not exposing yourselves to messages that are detrimental to your mental health. So you won't find me anytime Cheeto Satan comes on. Oh, excuse me. Anytime the person who currently lives in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue comes out, I change the channel because I know I can't deal with it because it's going to take me to a level that I don't want to go. Well, rather than deal with that, bye. So I just remove myself from the equation. It's not avoiding it, it's taking that out of the equation. So, and I tend to do that with a lot of different things. People that I don't feel like dealing with, I just don't deal with. And it takes a lot because I like everybody. So if I say that I really have an issue with you, something is really wrong with you. So, there would be times where there are a lot of social things to do here, obviously. And, certain groups of people, I just noticed, you know what? You all are just not my flavor. Maybe you're somebody else's, but not mine. And so I may see them, oh, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. In my head, I'm like, that's because I don't like y'all. But I'm saying that in my head, okay? I've chosen to take myself out of the equation because I don't like the way you operate and what you do. So I'm just laissez-faire.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tony is saying my diabetes usually lets me know when something is off for me. While I'm under stress, my blood sugars are usually sporadic and sometimes they have no rhyme or reason for why they're on a roller coaster. So fully get it. And that the body is a very incredible thing. And one of the things is listening to your body.
Yes.
Being in connection with your body. Because I'm at a point now, look at this, Latina. I pick my cuticles when I'm stressed, Latina NYC. Thank you, ladies. People here just being so transparent. And again, we are not medical experts. So I just want to make that clarification. We're not like gurus and all that. We're just speaking from personal experience. If there's someone who has a medical background, please feel free to jump in. But we're just talking in our everyday lives, some of the things that we have to, well, the Black Lady Magic, has to overcome and deal with to get out of the way. Actually, one of my mentors many years ago said, if you want to get rid of stress in your life, most people need to do at least one critical thing: get rid of negative people in your life.
Yeah, and I also want to circle back to a point that Tachi made, because I fully agree. And it goes along with getting rid of the negative people in your life, but it's also learning to say no and letting go of this feeling of responsibility or this feeling that you have to do everything, because you don't. So I feel like it's an exercise in learning how to prioritize, as I said earlier, but also being okay with letting go of stuff that does not serve you. So I agree with Tachi, and I'm trying to get to the point where I'm not feeling bothered by anything, because the things that bother me are not a part of my life. Unfortunately, I'm sort of trapped in certain situations right now with certain leaders that I cannot just be gone, because that's not the way it's set up. But I do try to protect myself as best I can from those influences. I guess that's the best way I can say it. And I'm a mom. So even though a lot of my stress comes from parenting, I made the decision to become a parent. So I accept what comes with it, good and bad. And so I also know that when those things happen, I just sort of manage it, and I try to prioritize myself. Like, I sort of always remind myself, in the grand scheme of my life, what is really more important? Do I really think it's more important that I take time away from my children to write this article, or do I go and read them their bedtime story? It always comes down on the side of the relationships and the people that are most important. One article here and there means nothing. The time that I could lose by not spending my children or choosing to be with them or be with the people that I love and care about most, I can't ever get that back. And that's what feeds the spirit and feeds my soul. So I've kind of gotten to the point where I can make those prioritizations, and I shift myself accordingly. When I feel something is out of balance, whether it's physical or emotionally, I shift so that I can kind of keep moving forward. And that's how I've learned. But I really want us to stay a little bit in the space of allowing Black women to know that it's okay that we don't have to be everything to everyone and do everything all the time, because that is what we're doing, and we're doing it to our own detriment. And that is why I think we continue to suffer at much higher rates from these diseases than our other female counterparts, because partially it's behavior and attitudinal, because we do take on all of these things, and partially we don't have a choice. We're in survival mode all the time, and that is stressful, and it takes a toll on us physically, emotionally, and mentally. And that's the part where I want to talk about, like, how can we mitigate against that for women who find themselves in that situation?
Let me just add here, Steph is saying a signal for me is forgetting things that I'm usually on top of.
Yes.
Most appreciative. And Herbie is saying here, it took him years with the ancient word no.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I think the word no can be your best friend. It really can. And also, I think people need to understand that you don't have to worry about what other people think. Just, if you tell them no, that's their problem, not yours. So I feel like a lot of times we're thinking we need to be people pleasers and, do the things that will just keep the peace or whatever, but we do it to our own detriment. Helping with that project when you know you really don't need to be involved with that project and you need to keep focusing on your own thing. But we say, yes, of course, we want to be a team player. We're messing ourselves up. We don't have to do that stuff. We don't.
And see, the interesting thing is that not that everyone is not taught to be a team player, but we are taught and feel like we have to compromise and be team players all the time. And it feels like sometimes only you has to be the team player. Only you needs to over-involve yourself in everything. And consequently, the same people and then extras will come to you every time with all these things. They're like, oh, well, you did this last year. Would you want it? No, I'm sorry. I'm too, you have to start saying no, and you don't have to give a reason. No, because I said no, witch. That should be good enough. That should be good enough. Now, of course, you don't have to be rude about it. If it's you just need to, but you don't need to over-explain, because the thing is, when people come to rely on you for it, they don't go to anybody else because they know they can come to you. But at some point, you may have other things to do, or damn it, you just don't want to do that anymore. And that's okay. And we need to start to feel that that's okay. You don't want to do that. And another thing is when you start to miss, we tend to be involved in a lot of things. As let's talk about Black women. And, you know, we talked about our sorority before, Delta Sigma Theta. So we're in a lot of I have friends that are involved in their sororities. They are members of the Links or the Girlfriends. They are part of an auxiliary for maybe their husband's fraternity. They are part of the Order of the Eastern Star. We tend to be very involved, especially when you're in a certain level, because that's an indication of your level in society. Black society is very hierarchical, and we value these types of things and these types of organizations. So on top of those types of social and service organizations, you then might also be a part of the NAACP. You might be active in the Urban League. You might be a part of 100 Black Men or the Coalition of 100 Black Women. There's all these different things, and you feel like you need to be a part of that. Part of it is because we like to build resume as well. Part of it is self-imposed. So I see some people that's like, oh, I'm getting inducted into such and such. I'm like, but you were just complaining to me yesterday about the amount of work that you have to do volunteer. So why would you? But it's a status thing. We so crave status, and title. I know where that title. I know where that comes from, and believe me, Nigerians are the kings and queens of wanting title. So I know this, but you know that carried over into the new world as well. And so that we so want to have that status and that title. It gives you a level of importance that you do these things, and then you overcommit in the meantime.
Okay, just let's catch up here. Greetings to Luke. Shannon says we always have a choice. Sacrifice and survival just seem to reign supreme. She also said no is a therapeutic complete sentence. Luke says, was told the most powerful thing we have is the ability to say no. Also, so Steph, I could talk about this ad nauseum as it relates to the amount of stress I'm currently under at work. I had to file a claim for short-term disability for stress and anxiety today because it's so bad. Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Wow. And she's saying, she goes, I can't take it anymore. I need to take care of me. Well, I am so happy we're having this conversation then right now. It's so relevant. Back now on the YouTube side, there's a lot of commentaries going on. Divine Right. I thankfully don't work far from home, so at 5 p.m. I get off work, roll the windows down, put the seat back, and listen to some meditative sounds or something soothing for about 30 minutes. Feels great. Unfortunately, when I'm not taking care of my body sounds off and the residual symptoms of Lyme disease flare, or I feel irritable for no reason and frazzled. Then I know I need to take a pause. She's saying, Tachi, preach and teach. I don't have time for some people anymore. Gotta tell them bye. And she also says, I guard my spirit, mind, and body as best as I can. Negative folks, fake folks, and toxic leaders can kick rocks. They're energy killers. And then finally she says, Nana is 95 and told me she left work right when it was 5 p.m. before she retired. Wasn't always available to people. And as the other person said, it's okay to say no and stand your ground.
And it doesn't make you wrong to say no, because I'm always wondering, I think the problem that a lot of us find ourselves in too is that we're good at what we do. So good work begets more work. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily think that it's a reward just because you think I do good work to give me more work. Let me do my own work over here. And then that can do it even better for all of us. So I'm learning very quickly because I often find myself in a position of, hey, do you want to join this committee? Hey, would you volunteer for that? Could you come speak to these students? Oh, will you mentor this person? No, I'm not going to do it. You see all these other people up in here? Go ask one of them. Why do you always keep coming back to me? I'm tired of it. So I feel like I'm at the point where I'm just like, I really don't care what you think about me. That's not my problem. And I mean, of course, I'll do it in the most diplomatic, respectful way possible. But ultimately, I have to take care of me, my own priorities, and the work that I need to do. If I really feel like it's something I want to invest in, I'm happy to give of my time. But right now, I got a lot going on. And I want to continue to invest in the things that I want to do. Like Tachi said earlier, she doesn't experience some of this because she's doing things that she loves. She's doing the things that she wants to do. So if you're doing something that you're not forced or obligated to do, I think it's less stressful because it was a choice and you are getting something from it because you want to do it. So that in and of itself is beneficial on some level because you're exercising your will, you're exercising something that you're passionate about, and that gives you energy, positivity. And also you can kind of scale back how much or how little energy you put into it at any given time because you are in control of that. And I just think it's too much. It is difficult because I often see this Black excellence thing. It's a double-edged sword. Because just like Tati said, we are status chasers because why? We didn't have status for so long. So now we've gone to the other side of the extreme where we feel we have to be like overly credentialed and overly titled, and we're in a status chasing society. So it isn't just status in terms of like which organizations you're in. That's definitely a big part of it. And also what title you have at work. It's also how many likes you get on Facebook, how many followers do you get? How many people are engaging with your post, even if you're not an influencer or, you know, a blogger or a social media personality. People still look at how many likes your photo of your friend's party had versus their photo of your own birthday party. So I just feel like we're getting this pressure from all sides to kind of be like Uber versions of ourselves. And I just think that's too much pressure and it's not realistic anymore, despite the fact that our society has gone down this path.
Very quickly, you're absolutely right that we're in a social media age where the me is the most important thing. And so as opposed to the we, it's the me. How many likes can I amass? How much can I do with this platform as opposed to person X? And it's an awful lot of pressure. But these are the things that you have to remember, that while social media is meant to be social and it is for other people, it's also for you. I think that we need to, society is very pressuring, shall we say, but people can only pressure you as far as you allow them to pressure you. And I understand there's a whole deeper thing, but we have to start to stand up and get straight. Like, okay, fine. 2 people liked it. It is what it is. I got my message out there. 2 people heard the message. I have accomplished it. It shouldn't be a constant chase of, okay, well, where else can I post this? So what, again, if you're trying to make money, that's a different thing altogether. I'm not talking about social media marketing, but if you're talking about as an individual, once you get your message out there, because I think that social media can also be a great place as a, to get things out there that you may not have a sounding board for in a proper way, of course, but that doesn't mean you're constantly chasing people's opinions and approval. And I understand, I understand where this comes from. It comes from the fact that people are so not listened to in society. And for the first time, somebody cares what you think. And they care what you think about by indicating a like or making that feels good. It's human nature. It feels good that somebody cares. But you have to, again, it sounds corny, but you have to be the one that emanates that care about yourself. You have to look inside first. So whether it sounds corny or not, you'll never be satisfied with anybody else's likes if you yourself are not satisfied with yourself.
Exactly.
I think that's a very important point, and I'll be transparent. Sometimes I have challenges being a people pleaser, but I realize that if you can't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody.
It's true.
Why would you? We were talking about this the other day with the Biz Chicks, on So we were talking about this the other day, and they have this whole concept of getting your kitchen in order, putting your kitchen together, and kind of likening that to the whole business plan because they talk about business. So it's like, if your kitchen is not in order, if you're, getting ready to bake and you don't have X, Y, and Z, you don't have the components you need for your business. And I added, not only that, but you can't clean somebody else's kitchen when your own is filthy. So how are you going to be a coach or an advisor to somebody else about cleaning up their kitchen when your own kitchen is full of roaches? So, yeah, roaches, or ants, whatever. So you have to take care of home first in order to be effective for other people.
Exactly.
We can't hear you, Dr. Vibe.
Well said. Well said. I think more than any other time, especially if you're speaking, I do communicate with a lot of Black women, and it seems more than ever the pressure is higher, the stakes are higher. especially with the large number of Black women who are becoming entrepreneurs.
Yeah,
I think
fastest
that
growing
adds another,
demographic.
to be seen. I watch what's going on, especially in the competitive entrepreneur marketplace with Black women. I go, wow, what's behind what I'm seeing on the monitor?
Yep.
I just wonder. It seems to be very, maybe I'm talking craziness, but I just
No.
think that, and I just think I think that some Black women are screaming and nothing's coming out. And I usually say that for men, but I think a number of them are screaming and coming out. I know there are probably ladies in your community, both of you, that this challenge is a big thing. And how do you suggest them coping it, or what are the symptoms you're seeing out there with Black Lady Magic? What signs are you seeing that, wow, things are just not going right?
So many. I mean, I think a lot of the reasons behind women becoming female entrepreneurs, Black women in particular, is because they want a better life. And as has been the norm for Black women, they have to make their own magic. They have to make their own path because there aren't those resources out there. They don't have those connections. They don't have those networks. They don't have access to the resources, people, information that they need to kind of give them a leg up the way some of our counterparts do have inherently and always. So it's just one more thing that Black women are taking on because they want to have a different set of life circumstances. And entrepreneurship in their eyes seems to be a way to do that. And honestly, being an entrepreneur is one version of the American dream. That whole pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and finding wealth or finding whatever goal you're trying to chase. And unfortunately, the traditional ways for people to become wealthy or stable or whatever aren't always available, and many times are impossible for Black women to achieve. So I think that they're kind of striving for other ways when they don't find the traditional paths open for them.
What do you have to say to that, Tachi?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. We've already discussed before that you don't build true wealth by working for somebody else. And I think many Black women have seen that, and it's been demonstrated. And there are a lot of people talking about this, whether in seminars or workshops or just through personal coaching. And there are many examples now, more so than there were before, of Black women coming in and doing these things. And actually, these examples were there. If you think about back in the day, the person like here in Florida, they call it storehouse. So women who had candy, right, would go and buy the candy in bulk and sell it out of their house. Because I got here, I said, what the hell is a storehouse? Somebody who opened a store in their house, and on the way to school, the kids would buy the candy. So they would set up the little thing. So, there have always been the entrepreneurial things amongst Black women. But now, we're in new spaces. So I think that we're seeing more contemporary examples of what could be and what we could do, and where we can fill in the gaps, where there is a dearth in the space or a dearth in the information, and how we can fill that dearth in. And so I think it's a good thing. But again, as Leah said, that's just one more thing that is on our plate, because often when you're doing this, you also have A, B, C, D, E, G, and F to do in the entire alphabet on top of everything else. So it's a great thing. But again, where does self-care factor into that?
Right. And I mean, it's no secret too that entrepreneurship is one of the most difficult things to do if you want to be successful. I mean, you hear these stories of entrepreneurs working day in, day out, nights, weekends, all hours of the day. And especially if you're a bootstrapping entrepreneur, which basically means you're self-funding, you're also getting up at 4 a.m. and working till 8 a.m. and then going to your 9 to 5 and then coming home and working from 5 p.m. until you go to sleep. So where's the rest? Where's the exercise? Where's the health? Where's the spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies that keep you happy and healthy and balanced? That's not the entrepreneurial journey. And so I feel like that's even more setting people up for these health issues, because that suddenly becomes a lesser priority because you're in pursuit of your entrepreneurial goals.
You know what? I have an interesting question for the ladies who are watching this. And so Steph, Thank you. I tell you, one of these days we got to get you on here because
So
you have
interesting.
so much wonderful things to share in the text on the side, saying your great grandmother opened a nightclub with a third grade education. She was a maid sharecropper and she wanted a better life. There you go. I just want to know whether the ladies are watching either on the Get Vocal platform or on the YouTube or even on Periscope, and also the two wonderful Black Lady Magic that here. Have you, even if it's just a medical checkup, have you been to a doctor in the last year?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Here come the
Latina. So
answer.
I have Latina. And well, as usual, ladies, you're showing up the guys again. And I think that's one of the basic things that Black women you should do, and show up us Black men, because many Black men don't do that. So I just wanted to find out there, talking about self-care, you're at least going to a doctor at least once a year. So, and
I don't like surprises. So yeah.
There you go. Latina NYC says, I have severe anemia and I need to keep in check. Good. Good. Men go to the social stuff. Men go to the doctor if their vision is out.
She ain't lying though. She ain't lying.
She's telling the truth. She's telling the truth.
And I'm telling you, so Steph, you need to host your own conversation if you're not going to come on here, because you're real.
You really do.
Real, big time. Do you see this challenge of self-care in younger women that you associate with also, or are you just seeing it with women around your own demographic? And if you see it, you're seeing it in your own demographic, but are you seeing these challenges coming up with younger women at all? The whole trying to balance everything.
If I may,
Yes,
in part, sometimes yes, but just from my own experiences of things that I see, I think that younger women have a different attitude towards work than we did. The days of stay in your good government job and you'll get you for 30 years, and those days are over for this generation. They don't do that. They don't stay in jobs past 3 years, if even that. So I think because of changing attitudes towards work and what constitutes work, I think that there's less of that. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It certainly does. But I think there's less of that because there are changing attitudes towards what is work, what constitutes work. And a lot of them, they value experiences over things. So whereas generations before them may have been working to amass things, their thing is to get experiences. And they're really about having good experiences all the way through. That includes in what the way they work. They don't want to look. Why do you think things like Google evolved and they have this whole Google campus where they want to be in a happy workplace for the most part? Now, again, we won't get into the whole thing of when we talk about quote unquote millennials, people put all millennials into one basket, but there are millennials who have, and then there are the millennial have-nots, and everybody's experience is not the same. But if we're looking at it, as a cohort overall, I don't think that the young women, maybe young millennial women and soon young Gen Z women, have the same concept of work that Gen X and beyond before had. So as such, their attitude is a little more laid back, shall I say. They're finding ways to negotiate things with employers in terms of the thing they can get. Because they value experiences, they'll take time over more money sometimes. They're also, our problem is too, that we have to live in the in the 5-room house, and we need this and we need bigger. They don't give a damn if they live in a hostel with 75 people. Just give me my corner and I'm good. So that's another thing. Because of their attitude of simplicity towards things, not everybody, but for the most part, and not having a lot, that also solves a lot of the problem. Our problem is we have to have too much sometimes. So that's part of it. Leah, you may have a different take or additional.
Just before you go on, Leah, I want you to get your breath after you took a little sip of water.
Yeah.
I want to shout out to Ms. Gisela, CMO of Get Vocal. Thanks for stopping by. Also want to shout out to She says, try hiring. Hiring can be, it's painful.
Yes.
So does Shannon says hiring is painful. And Shannon, thank you for being so transparent, saying you have been struggling since October. Wow. Wow. And Gisela says they don't even know how to prepare for an interview. She's talking about millennials. They literally don't even prepare for interviews. You know, so it seems like things are just gone topsy-turvy all over the place in regards to this whole thing. And I'm only going to say it once, work-life balance. I'm not going to get any more into that because
that's a whole other topic.
That's a whole other topic. That's a whole other conversation. Ha, Miss Gisela goes. Leah, as we're winding down quickly, folks. So if anybody wants to come into space, well, you know, you can probably come on after, but both these ladies have to jump off at the top of the hour. So Leah, go ahead.
Okay, I apologize, everyone. I'm like melting down.
No.
Sickness.
Well, say this comment and then give your contact information and come out.
Sure, no problem. If you can even understand me, because I'm so congested.
We can.
Okay, I was gonna say I agree with everything that Chachi said as usual. So I don't have anything to add to that. But what I will say is that I think regardless of the generations that we are in, I do still feel like Black women, regardless of their generation, are still disproportionately affected negatively when it comes to self-care. Why? Because even though they may have, millennials or Gen Zers may have a different approach or a different attitude about work, I still think that their individual lives can be stressful. Why? Because they are Black women, because of that demographic. So I still don't see a lot of Black women, even at younger ages, going to get medical treatment as frequently as they probably should. I still see women that are millennials who are now becoming mothers, young mothers. Many of them are still dying of, you know, in the childbirthing process. So, and unfortunately, that's a negative trend that we've seen across generations within Black women. So I do still feel like regardless of some of those attitudinal differences and how we approach work and things like that, yes, they are disproportionately negatively impacted or whatever. I don't know if it's culturally, I don't know what the cause is, but yes, I do feel like they are struggling in that sense too. Those things, in my view, haven't changed.
Okay, so Leah, give your contact information and go get
Sure.
some rest.
I will put it in the comments. I'm going. I'll see you guys soon.
No problem.
Hopefully healthy next week. All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right, no problem.
Cheers, Leah.
That's good. Dr. Chetachi, I know you got to jump off, but also there are people in the room. If you want to come in and continue the conversation, no problem. I see Leah, the life coach, is here. Shannon, Latina, NYC, Social Steph. If you want to come in and grab a spot, we can keep the conversation. You're more than welcome to. Tachi, go ahead.
Oh gosh, what am I saying?
well, basically some final words, because I know you've got to jump off at the top of the hour, and then your contact information.
Okay, yeah, well, going back to what Leah said, I absolutely agree that regardless of generation, there are still things that disproportionately affect women of color, and particularly in our case, you know, women of African descent. We have a lot going on. Let's say that. So irrespective of what your generation is, there's a lot to work with. But I think that the one of the biggest takeaways is this whole thing of we need to learn to say no. For some things, I understand it's not that easy to do, but for other things, I think people only push you as far as they allow you to feel. You have to stop caring so much about what people think. And you know, that negative thinking about you is because you're not doing what they want you to do rather. So, oh well, your attitude needs to be oh the hell well, because you have to value this, because if you keel over, they'll mourn for 2 seconds and then look for somebody to fill your job. So
I just before you leave, I'm going to got a very short story onto that. Many years ago, when I had hair, I used to work at Adidas Canada, and one of the blessings, actually, I was the second Black person to work in their administrative office in all of Canada.
Wow.
And when I was hired, the gentleman who was president at the time, when I got hired, he had already ran in the Boston Marathon. And Adidas on their site has a basketball court, has a full facility, workout, treadmills, the whole thing. And I was working at one evening after work, and was in the change room, and he was working out also. He came in and he sat down. He said, "Sit down. I want to tell you something." He says, "Look, if you get a better opportunity than what you have right now in life, you go for it." And I thought, wow, he's trying to let go of me. He said, "No, what I mean is that," he said, "that even if I resigned from Adidas Canada at this time, the company would still go on without me."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying there is, folks, nothing lasts forever, especially your life. And if you were here at the front part of the conversation that we were having, and I shared about this lady was 44 years old, who got married less than a year ago, who passed away in front of her parents. You don't want that, folks.
No. And that is key. The fact that they will go on without you. They will still continue to sing, run, shine, etc., and they will be just fine. So you have to care about you. This is not to say don't take pride in what you do. This is not to say don't extend yourself. In certain cases, of course, we all have those times where okay, you've got to be up till like 2 a.m. doing XYZ because that's what needs to happen. But that should not be the norm. That should be the exception. Unless it's something you're working on for yourself that you love doing, that's completely different. But when it's for someone else, your norm should not be completely sleepless nights all the time and you're hating this. That means something is wrong. So while it sounds very idealistic to just say this, what's not idealistic is wanting to stay alive. So
there you go. Well put. Well put. Leah saying, "That's exactly how I feel about my job." Yes, and Leah saying, "Oh, Tony's gonna jump on quick, but what I'm gonna do is read what Leah had to say." Yes, they will. Yes, they will, and this is why you have to be your own self advocate, because they will not be. She also says they have to have a bottom line and serve, and you are expendable. Tony, I'm going to give you the last quick word, and then we're going to stop the recording.
Yeah, I just wanted to hop on and just say this. There are some people that self-care has to be thrown upon them. And what I mean by that is my example. I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've had slight cases of cerebral palsy since I was 6. I have a lot of health complications because of my health problems. And a lot of times self-care has to be thrown upon me, because if I don't, I get sicker and I get more mentally insane, and eventually I'll die, and my complications will kill me. There's thousands of people on there. There's like people on here on like this platform. I'll give Joe Burke. He's another one that we all know. Joe Burke's an excellent guy who we all know. Don't know if people on Periscope would know him, but he got hemophilia of all things, and a bunch of other health problems. Health care has to be thrown upon some people so that they can be able to say, yeah, we need to deal with this.
Okay. All right, Mr. Tony, thank you for your words. I'm going to have you step down here. And Leah, please give your contact information, and we'll let
me or
not Leah, Tachi. Sorry, Leah's already
that's
off.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Tachi. Yes, I got it. I'm so used to seeing Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, no worries. So I am the host of a show called Mediascope. I talk all about media, tech, and pop culture news every Wednesday. The pre-show is at 5 p.m. Eastern time on Instagram Live. Then at 6 p.m. Eastern time, I hop on to Periscope, Facebook Live, and WJMSradio.com. So the day before that, on Tuesdays, I am the co-host of TV Channeling, which is a show that it's a podcast. I talk all about TV and film and entertainment, and we also do TV reviews. That I do with my friend Kevin out in LA. And we are on Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern time on WJMSradio.com. Both replay on Fridays. Yeah, both replay on Fridays. So I forgot to give the at Tachiata TACHIADA on Twitter and Periscope, Dr_Tachi on Instagram. And on Facebook, you can watch the show or check me out on Mediascope at Mediascope16.
All right. Well, Dr. Tachi, I'll let you go because I know you got to jump off. You got things to do as always. And get ready for the email from myself because Tony's after us. You know what I'm talking about. All right. Be blessed. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Okay, folks, it is Dr. Vibe here. I'm host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations. I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Best place to check me out at is at the drvibeshow.com. And it would not be the same without doing the shout out. So, of course, I'd like to thank Leah, who isn't 100% and needs some self-care. So everyone say a prayer for Leah if you're up to it. Also, Dr. Tachi, always pray for her too. We've got Steph was here. We had Shannon. Dre was on for a bit. Tony was on for a bit. Kinte was on for a bit. Gabe was on for a bit. We had Monica Black Diamond on for a bit. We had Tony, of course, has been the beginning. Herbie, thank you so much for being on the Get Vocal platform and sharing it on Periscope. Latina NYC, thank you so much for your contributions, as always. Luke, thank you so much. I think I've got everybody. Now, on the Periscope side, we had I Can Do Dave from Australia. We also Herbie Hancock. Herbie's hangout was on the Periscope side. I Can Do Dave says, I wish I could get there all the time to get such wisdom. Time is the enemy. Terrific show as always. Thank you very much from Australia. I Can Do Dave. Thank you so much. On the YouTube side. Oh, and also forgot on the Get Vocal side, Gisela, the CMO of Get Vocal. And Divine Right, who was on the YouTube side. Thank you so much. You have your last comment you made here is that, and self-care comes down to what we eat. Mindful eating, taking time to taste our food and not just gobble it down. Eating really good food, portion side, and food that refuels our body. I think we got to do a conversation about minding what you eat. What do you think, folks? I think that'd be a good conversation topic. So I'm just going to let it all go. And thank you so much. You can also catch all my replays on the Get Vocal platform and also on YouTube, but go to the Get Vocal platform preferably. Have upcoming conversations over the next few days. So go to my subscribe to the Dr. Vibe show on Get Vocal. There'll be a quick after show after, but as always, I like to say a few things before I sign off. So let me just bring them up. Please apologize for my delay because I just want to make sure we got something coming up here. Few last things. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Next up, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions. And then finally, it's going to come up here. Bear with me. Be patient. It's coming. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I'm waiting for it to come up. My computer is running slow all of a sudden. There we go. Aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Thank you so much for watching the conversation and listening to the conversation live. Also, if you're going to be listening to this on a replay, thank you so much also. God bless. Peace and well. Keep the faith and walk good. Good night, everybody.